Welcome to Second Take, the show that takes a look at the issues behind the news. Operation Vulindlela Phase 2 was officially launched this week, expanding South Africa's reform agenda. Terence Creamer joins me to discuss the new plan. Hi, Terence.
Hi, Chanel.
The reform priorities have been expanded to 3 new areas.
Yes, so over the last few years under the first phase, there's been quite a lot of success in energy, logistics, water, as well as visa reform, with the highest profile one being, the efforts to tackle load shedding. And but there was a view ahead of the elections last year that Operation Vulindlela would be sustained and could be expanded. So this is the second wave, and it was signalled fairly early that the municipal crisis, particularly at the metros, would receive attention, and that has been now embedded and incorporated into the second phase, as well as the area of urban densification, which is really about dealing with the spatial inequality that still exists in South Africa, apartheid geography, which means a lot of people live far from their places of work. It adds massively to transport costs. So if we can sort of densify corridors around, particularly the metros, and have people living closer to the economic activity, it will improve prospects for employment as well as lower the cost of seeking employment, which is a major issue in South Africa. And then the last cross-cutting area is digital transformation, and really integrating sort of digital technology more and more into government services. That would, I think, excite a number of South Africans who find, queuing for Home Affairs or documentation. If we can access these more on a digital basis, or at least apply and have a more streamlined system so that the queues at these sort of facilities to get these things, or even to, if you've lost your matric certificate, etc., could we build sort of digital wallets around these things and other government services? I think that there's an opportunity there as a cross-cutting opportunity, all spheres of government, national, provincial and municipal government, to use digital technology much more efficiently. So that would be the 7th area that's been added to the agenda now.
The 4 regional priorities remain, but with new areas of emphasis.
That's right. So, as I said, energy was a major focus. We had that intense period of load shedding in 2022, 2023. 2023, it was basically daily load shedding, and it was really a drain on the South African economy. It basically made it impossible for investment to take place with so little certainty around electricity supply. And that was a major focus area for Vulindlela, looking at the reforms that were needed to take us into a more fit-for-purpose electricity industry, as well as to, in parallel, work with the private sector through NECOM, the National Energy Crisis Committee, to really tackle load shedding aggressively. That was helped very much by the budget, giving Eskom 254 billion rand support to really help them get that maintenance going, etc. So that was a major area of focus, and we're now entering a sort of a phase where maybe load shedding is tapered, but we aren't out of the woods in terms of electricity and energy in South Africa. There are a lot of things that still need to happen, and there's a particular concern around where the weakest link in the system now is. That's the sort of distribution end. So we know Eskom's got a distribution business. We know that most of the distribution now happens through municipalities. We know there's a municipal arrear debt to Eskom of 100 billion plus. And so it's an unsustainable structure, and there's a lot of changes happening to the way technologies are working. New technologies are being integrated. These are distributed. Households can even feed into the grid, etc. So things are changing at the distribution level, and we haven't adapted. We've still got a system in place that's not fit for purpose. Now, it's not the first time we've tried to reform the EDI sector. The last time we were going to have wall-to-wall REDs, 7 of them across the country. That failed on a constitutional grounds, but we're in a different space now in terms of the failure, and we're seeing stopgap measures, sort of incentives from Treasury to try and allow municipalities to write off their debt to Eskom. That doesn't seem to be working very well. We've got this other stopgap measure where Eskom comes in as a support agent at municipal level to try and get those bills paid, get people paying, and ensure the revenue that comes in also pays Eskom. But those are not really sustainable solutions. We need to find a workable one. The issue is this constitutional overhang. It was fought very aggressively by some of the metros, especially ones led by the Democratic Alliance, that they didn't want that taken away from the metros. But it's not working. So that's going to be a big area of work. And then obviously the other logistics, we sort of really only got things started in the logistics space. We now need to see the private sector participation happening. Similarly, we only just to scratch the surface of water reform, got the water use license going through, but there's so many gaps in the supply side that need to be closed, so there's a lot to do. And we also only got to the surface of visa reform, both to bring in the skills we need and tourism. So that will be electricity, quite a big shift in emphasis. Others trying to bring the momentum from the first phase and really start now implementing. So yes, a bit of a change of focus, a bit of sort of added momentum there.
Does the program still have the political backing of the full GNU?
I think that is the key question. The reason why Operation Vulindlela Phase 1 can be ticked off as a success of the last administration is because it had political backing all the way up to the presidency. It still definitely has the president's backing. Operation Vulindlela was the glue, particularly for the DA to join the government of national unity. It was this one thing that they agreed definitely that we need to do these reforms and we need to accelerate those reforms. Those are the two big, the ANC and the DA are the big two participants in the GNU, which has many other coalition partners. But we see it is fraying at the edges. We're seeing a lot happened around the budget, and we now have a third budget coming on the 21st of May, and we have to see. There's a view that Operation Vulindlela, the themes that have come out now this week, will be reflected in the budget. And I think that's going to be an important signal of saying that the GNU is behind this. And I think we'll have to see, because there's not much money around, but how they're going to incentivize particularly some of the metro activities, how we get some of these metros rescue plans going with support from the budget. So that's going to be a big sort of signal as to whether Operation Vulindlela, I think it has support, and I think there will be support in the budget, but under constrained conditions. But there's so many other things, chafing at the GNU at the moment, that hopefully Operation Vulindlela will remain the glue. But even there, because there's so many now, it's priority 7, and there won't be definite agreement about how we tackle some of these areas, like how we tackle the next phase of electricity reform. I mentioned the constitutional issues around the distribution issue. There could be disagreements in the GNU around that. So it's no easy road ahead. But at the moment, there's political alignment around Operation Vulindlela. If that holds, I think that's going to be very important to the next phase. If it doesn't hold, it will unravel.
Thank you. That's the Second Take Show for this week. Thank you for watching, and join us again next time for more news analysis. Also, don't forget to listen to the audio version of our Engineering News daily email newsletter.